Hi, this is Alan Gassman, and I want to show you our Nest Retirement Calculator, which is one of our comprehensive planning tools in the EstateView software suite. So I go to estateview.link, I put in my email address and my password, I click on Nest Retirement Calculator, I can click on File New to start this anew if I haven't used it before. And I start off with our standard model. So our standard model allows me to put in the age of the older client, which is usually the breadwinner, let's say age 50, and then the age of a spouse that is going to be living longer usually, say age 45. If it's single, if the person's single, then I don't need a spouse and I can just click off the second life. Then a projected age of death. This shows me that with these two folks, one of them should be expected to live for 40 years, so 40 years from now. And then a retirement goal. They may want to retire when the oldest spouse reaches age 65 and to be able to spend $175,000 a year, of course, adjusted for inflation. And at death, they may want to leave their descendants at least $1,500,000 a year, adjusted for inflation. They may assume an inflation rate of 3.75%, and then they have a $750,000 home that they believe will grow at 4.25% a year. Their investments, $1.5 million, growing at 6.5% a year, and they are saving $180,000 a year. They expect that their savings can increase by, let's say, 4%, 4.5% a year until retirement age, that their investments are costing them 0.5% in investment costs and 2% of the value of their portfolio each year in income taxes on the interest, dividends, and capital gains. They currently have debt, let's say, of $500,000 at an interest rate of 6% being amortized over 15 years. So I click to see results, and across the top I can move the screen from left to right by clicking on the vertical line there, and then I can also click on fit width on the far right to show me these columns. And what this is telling me is, for a 50-year-old married to a 45-year-old wishing to retire in 15 years, expecting to die in 35 years with the information we indicated, this person will not be able to retire at age 65. They will be short of investments by $435,000, or they need to save another $16,000 a year to get to where they want to be. That's not terrible. Or they just need to find $242,000 today and add that, maybe by downsizing their home, or they need to work a little bit longer. So then what I can do is say, well, what would we change? So I'll click on duplicate there, and then I'll have a talk with them and say, could you save a little bit more? Well, how much more would we need to save in order to meet our goals? And I'll click 180 to 190, and that's not quite there, but it's closer. Or click 190 to 200, and now if they could save $200 a year based upon this scenario, they can make it to their goal, as you see here. But then they have another question for you, and this is a common question. The common question is, we'd like a bigger home. So instead of $750 a year, I mean a 750 home, we would like to have a 1,250,000 home. So we'll have another $500,000 of debt. So I'll click up the home to 1,250,000, click up the debt to 1 million, and now they're barely going to make it if they can continue to save the 200,000 above and beyond paying for the home. So that's the standard calculator for the NEST. And NEST stands for Needs Estimated Savings Tabulation. When I go to the Pro mode, oh, and by the way, when I click on timelines and charts, I can see each of those 3 different plans and how it looks and how their net worth is going to look at each given year. I can look at a timeline for the first one, see what it looks like, where the assets build up, where the money comes out for expenses, and I can show them the probability of the survivor being alive. I can also show them the nest number 1, what it looks like, where they are today, and on retirement in 15 years and on death in year 40. With a deficit, their home would be worth $4 million, but they would owe a mortgage of $2.2 million on it and have no investments. Or in my second scenario, a happier situation because they are saving more. Still, though, the investments would be negative. They'd still have a mortgage on their home. And then nest number 3, an even bigger home. So nest number 3, a much bigger home, but still somewhat of a deficit. That wouldn't bother a lot of people, but at least we can show them that. Now, when I go back to this mode, and by the way, I can show as many of these as if I want. If I want to do duplicate and let's just sell the darn house or change the house, whatever it is, I can change this. For example, it's easy to say, how about a 6.5% rate of return? But what if we have a terrible market and it's only a 5% rate of return? Well, then the situation could be horrific, as you see there. Okay, so for every calculator, we have a standard version and a pro version. And the pro version does more than the standard version. And I'm going to click on pro version here. I'm going to click on OK. And now I'm going to show you a lot more information. And what I'll do is I'll save what I did before. I'll click File, Save As, and call that First Items Standard, just so I can come back to them if I ever want to. And now I'm going to show you, I'll close what I had done, and I'm going to click on File New, because this will be a new one. And now I have more choices. So I'm going to open up my inputs. Now the inputs are on the left, but I can always center my inputs by clicking here, the center button. And when I do that, let's see what I can have. So let's say I have a 45-year-old now, married to a 42-year-old, planning to make it to age 85, which is within normal life expectancy. Maybe we can go to age 90. What the heck? Would like to retire at age 63, would like to be able to spend $250,000 a year in today's dollars. From ages 63 to 77, at 77, would like to spend $150 a year, and will want everything adjusted for inflation, and would like to leave at least $1.5 million for descendants on death, assume an inflation rate of 3.75%, and home still worth $750,000, growing at 4% or 4.25%. Then investments, $1.5 million of investments growing at 6.5%. Once they retire, though, the rate of return may go down because maybe they may be more in equities now and more in bonds when they retire. Annual savings, let's give them $200,000 a year of annual savings. And investment costs, let's say 0.5% a year, taxes, 2% of the value. And now we have some other options. They may expect an inheritance in 30 years of $250,000, so we can add that. They may have a second inheritance that we would call inheritance 2. And this might happen in 1 year. Somebody's very sick, and this might be an inheritance of $150,000 coming in 1 year. And then we can add reoccurring additions. For example, Social Security. And we might add, besides getting Social Security in 25 years, we might add gifts. Reoccurring additions. We might add gifts from parents. Their parents may be giving them gifts each year and may give them gifts for 10 years. And those gifts may be $18,000 a year, growing at 4% a year. Now the debt, same type of situation. And then one-time expenses, maybe college, maybe a wedding, maybe when they get to age 40, or when maybe in 20 years they would like to take a very expensive world cruise when they first retire. So I can call that world cruise. And maybe that's going to cost $300,000. And then they want to give their church perhaps $10,000 a year for 20 years, or maybe $50,000 a year for 20 years. Well, how does that all come out? I click on See Results, and what I have now is the same type of display across the top. It also tells me life expectancy, which it did not before. And I have a little deficit of $40,000 a year, or a total deficit of $1.3 million, or has to work a little bit longer. So what I can do now, of course, is look at this on a spreadsheet. And this is really important for clients to see. I can show them now in a spreadsheet, and I can show all of the columns that I choose here. And this shows the client that everything they do has an impact on what they will have. So this is their life in a spreadsheet, showing, yes, if you have the church fund, that takes down your net worth. Yes, if you pay for a wedding, that's how much it's going to cost in that year. And then the other thing that we show them is the life insurance needed on the far right-hand side. So on the far, I can open this up and see that if the primary breadwinner is going to die in the first 5 years, I need about $7.8 million of life insurance on her life or his life. So I can go to Life Insurance Estimator, and I can say I need $7.5 million of life insurance. Click that up to $7.5 million and make it a 30-year term policy, perhaps, or maybe 25-year term, $11,000 a year. I can go ahead and add that as an expense of $11,000 a year for 10 years over here, and come up with a realistic general plan for them. Now, in all of our calculators, you will find that you can alter your summary columns by clicking here, and then you can decide what you want to show across the top, some or all of them. Typically the yellow ones are the ones that we recommend. And you can show more or less across the top. You can always click on fit width to fit them all in. And then across the bottom, you always have, if you're in Pro mode or Pro Plus mode, a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet can be exported to Excel and used as an Excel document that you can then change later as you may decide to do so. Oops, that's where they run out of money. Not such a great plan, perhaps. Maybe make more or spend less. Those are the two main things you can do. In addition, on the spreadsheet, besides showing more or less of the columns, I'll just show a few less so it's easier to look at. I can also fit width as always, and then I can show every other year. I can show every third year, every fourth year, so that it fits better. I can move the spreadsheet up or down by clicking on the horizontal line and moving the spreadsheet up or down. And if I want to show them a second alternative, I can click on duplicate. I can determine what they need to crank up or down to get a fit here. For example, maybe the second spouse should get a part-time job, maybe spend a little bit less and save an extra $50,000 a year. So the difference here is the savings amount of $250,000 a year versus $200,000 a year. And the difference from doing that, if you could save 250 versus 200, you would have a retirement surplus of $350,000 instead of a deficit of $1,333,000, and you could retire 2 years early, which would certainly be a nice thing. When I generate client explanation letter, I can watch the two nests. I can click on PowerPoint presentation, planner's checklist, put in the client's name, Mary and John, click on submit, and then there's my checklist. There, I'll reopen this. There's my checklist, there's my details, and a PowerPoint as well. So that is the nest calculator. I can also, as with the other calculators, share it with the client by pasting the HTTP address that just came up into an email to the client, telling the client to use, in this case, code 440532 to use the software to decide what decisions they want to make and what variables they may want to change in order to decide how to best plan for their retirement. So this, as I said, is the EstateView Nest Retirement Calculator. We welcome your questions, comments, and suggestions on this. We thank you for using or considering the use of EstateView software, hoping that you will use this to help your clients understand the dynamics of savings and spending, always, of course, recommending that they see and follow the advice of a qualified financial advisor. We did not create the Nest calculator to enable tax lawyers to become financial advisors, but we found that many of us have these conversations with clients based on common sense, and that clients can understand the Nest retirement calculator and see the need for getting good financial assistance. Thank you very much and have a great day.